Let's kick things off with a question that kind of flips everything on its head. What if all those monsters and spirits from our ancient myths, what if they weren't out there at all? What if they were mirrors?
Yeah, mirrors, reflecting the hidden, tangled up dynamics of our own minds. This idea that myths are basically a map to our inner world is exactly what we're going to get into today. We're going to see how ancient folklore and modern brain science are maybe, just maybe, telling the exact same story.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're jumping into the spirit in the machine, why we imagine invisible worlds. And, trust me, we're going on a wild ride. From the spirits of the ancient deserts all the way to the wiring of our own brains to figure out why we've always been so obsessed with invisible worlds. So here's the game plan. First up, we'll meet some of these unseen spirits. Then we'll see how they pop up all over the world. We'll get into the why, the emotions that drive these stories. Then we'll bring in the big guns with Carl Jung. And finally, we'll see how our own dreams bring this all to life. All right, let's get our hands dirty with a perfect example to start us off. The Jinn of Arabian and Islamic traditions. They are a fantastic case study for this whole idea of a hidden, parallel world. So the Jinn are described as beings made from smokeless fire. I mean, how cool is that? It's this perfect image for pure, invisible energy. And just to be clear, we're not talking about ghosts or demons like you might think of in the West. They're their own thing, a third race of beings living right alongside us, just in a different dimension. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Look where they supposedly live, in liminal or in-between spaces. Deserts, ruins, the moment of twilight. These aren't just random spooky places. They're physical metaphors for a psychological border, the one between our tidy conscious mind and that wild, messy unconscious. And here's the kicker. They can be good or evil. It's a perfect parallel to what the psychologist Carl Jung said about the creative and destructive forces that exist inside every single one of us. And you know what? The Jinn are just the tip of the iceberg. This isn't some one-off story. As we're about to see, this is a deeply human, totally global thing. I mean, just take a look at this. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. In ancient Greece, you have the daimons. In Japan, the kami. In the Americas, the coyote spirit. The names change, but the job description? Pretty much the same. They're all these go-betweens, teachers, or reflections of nature's hidden forces. This is not a coincidence, people. It's like we're all working from the same mental blueprint. Want a killer example of how this works? Let's talk dragons. In East Asia, the dragon is awesome, a symbol of good luck, it brings rain, protects people. But you hop over to medieval Europe, and whoa, the dragon is suddenly public enemy number one. It's sin, chaos, greed, something for a knight in shining armor to slay. See, same core symbol, but two totally different psychological paint jobs based on the culture. So, okay, this brings us to the big question, right? Why? Why do we do this? What's the engine driving all this myth-making in the first place? Well, it really boils down to two primal motivations that are always pulling at us. On one side, you've got fear. Fear of the unknown, of chaos. So what do? We invent monsters. We give that formless anxiety a face, something we can point to and understand. And on the other side, you've got hope, aspiration. We create gods and guardian spirits to inspire us, to give us a roadmap for how to live and what to strive for. And you can see it right here in these classic myths. The chaos dragon Tiamat from Babylon, or the snake Apophis from Egypt. That's pure fear of the unknown stuff. But guardian angels, or those benevolent Naga spirits from Asia, totally wish-based. There are ideals in living form. So it's this constant dance, right, between our biggest fears and our deepest hopes. Okay, so how do we tie all this together? To really get at the heart of this universal pattern, we need to talk about one guy, Carl Jung, and his incredible idea of the collective unconscious. So Jung's big idea is summed up right here. He basically said we're all born with this mental software already installed, these preformed memory matrices. They're not your personal memories, like what you had for breakfast. They're way older, collective, ancestral memories, the fundamental patterns of what it means to be human. So let's nail this down. What exactly is an archetype? Think of it as a universal template for an emotion or a type of experience. You know, the hero, the trickster, the great mother, the shadow. We all instinctively get what those mean. And all those spirits we talked about, the Jinn, the dragon, the daimon, they're just the local costumes these deep, universal archetypes put on. So how do they actually work? Well, they're universal, but most of the time they're just sitting there, dormant, like potential energy. But then something happens in your life. You fall in love, you face a huge challenge, and bam, that personal experience resonates with one of these ancient patterns and it gets activated. And when it comes to the surface, it shows up as a powerful dream, a flash of inspiration, or, you guessed it, the very myths and spirits we've been exploring.
All right, now for the part that I think is just mind-blowing. How does this actually happen inside our heads? Let's build a bridge from Jung's psychology straight to modern neuroscience and see how dreams flip the switch on these ancient blueprints.
So think about your day-to-day life. Your rational brain is in the driver's seat, right? It's like a bouncer at a club. It keeps things orderly, logical, and it actively suppresses all that deep, messy, archetypal stuff. And it has to. We need it to function. But what happens when the bouncer goes on break? And that's where this cycle comes in. When we're awake, the bouncer, our rational filter, is on duty. But a really strong emotion, like intense fear or even awe, can make it look the other way for a second. Then, when we go to sleep and dream, that filter is pretty much off the clock. This is when the archetypes get to come out and play, dramatized in our dream stories. It's the mind's way of processing everything, which can lead to some serious aha moments when we wake up. And get this psychological cycle isn't just a nice idea, you can actually see it in our brain activity. There's a model called the Brain Kinematics Model, the BKM, that helps us visualize it. It suggests that our normal waking brain is all about focused, orderly activity. But when we dream, the boss, the executive control, clocks out. And this allows the ancient, deep parts of our brain to finally have a proper conversation with the newer thinking parts. That right there is the moment of neurological rebalancing. And this gives us a much cooler way to think about conscious and unconscious. They're not places in your head, they're more like different states of operation. The unconscious is where those deep, low sensitivity, ancient blueprints, the archetypes, are stored. Consciousness is your super high-depth, high-sensitivity awareness of right now. And the subconscious, that's the dynamic space in between, where the two are constantly talking to each other. So, when you put it all together, you can think of dreaming as the brain's nightly system update. It's this absolutely vital process where all the emotional chaos and psychic energy of the day gets sorted, converted into symbolic order, and basically reboots the whole system for the next day. And that leads us to this, our final big idea. The ancient language of spirits and dragons, and the modern language of neuroscience. They might seem worlds apart, but they're not. They're just two different dialects trying to describe the exact same incredible thing. The vast, mysterious, and continuous landscape of the human mind. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. If myths have always been the mind's way of seeing itself, of making sense out of chaos, then what are the myths we're creating right now, today? Think about it. In our technology, in our movies, even in our politics. What new monsters and spirits are we dreaming up? And more importantly, what do they tell us about who we really are?